Are Kadai destroyers any good past 6.1.2? As long as we're covering Fireborn, we might as well cover the destroyers because they pull from the same pool of Hellforge upgrades. Destroyers have had a mixed reception overall, as do many single entities, but they absolutely have a place, so let's focus on how to make them work for you because they're so hot, they're cool. Recruited for 2200 gold and 550 upkeep, stiff costs. On Ultra this gets you a destroyer with 10,240 health. Armor begins at 120, but the story continues with 10% physical resistance, 15% missile resistance that takes its cut out of missile damage even if it's magical, and 35% fire resistance. Leadership of 70 is your default bulwark against demonic disintegration effects. Speed 60 and charge speed 130 are quite nice as stats go, so the charge is even more vicious than a Stonehorn, at least in terms of the speed. Melee attack begins at 52, and each blow is magical and flaming attack. Attack interval of 4 is the industry standard. Splash of the size of large means trolls will share the damage, and max target damage is 7, which can be good or bad depending on what your situation is. Melee defense 34 is not particularly high. Weapon strength 680 is split between base 180 and armor piercing 500 to rip through steam tanks. There is no bonus versus enemy type. Charge bonus is 45 and mass is 9,000, like an elemental bear. This siege attacker inflicts fear and terror, is unbreakable until it hits 25% hit points and below, at which point wounds weakens it anyway. It has the blazing body build-up to 10% more physical resistance and 25 points of melee reflection per proc. Moreover, it has Hellish Frenzy, as in the normal benefits of Frenzy until it is below 75% of hit points, which happens easily in a lot of battles, so you rejoice when you have it, and it can be healed by a Demon Smith. In the Redline skills, Hellish Blows at 3 pips grants plus 6 melee attack and plus 12% weapon strength. At rank 7, Wretched Warhost can add plus 12% more weapon strength, charge bonus plus 12 flat, and 10% more physical resistance without needing a build-up effect. In the tech tree, Boiling Blood Sacrifices grants 10% more weapon strength to destroyers specifically, and Demon Forges grants 10% more physical resistance. Rank 7 destroyers with this tech will inflict flammable 20% fire weakness for 20 seconds with each blow. And yes, that means 20% more damage for the destroyer itself, among other sources of spicy jalapeno damage. The Hellforge upgrades that are possible are just like the Fireborn, but they'll land a lot differently, so let's work through them. Devastating Flanker is certainly valuable, but this isn't a chariot. Its tendency is to enter an attack animation with whatever it comes in contact with, so don't expect the 9000 mass to be doing too much collision attack stuff. This isn't Scarbrand. 800 barrier hit points lengthen the time it takes to get the machine down to dangerous levels. Charge bonus plus 30 mostly makes charging attacks into surer hits, but with Devastating Flanker, this all becomes more reliable, laying into single entity monsters and characters. Permanent Unbreakable is a luxury, but it's great to have and removes a key source of grief about the unit. Missile Resistance 15% extra is one that lands differently because, unlike the Fireborn, you arrive at 30% missile resistance. Perfect Vigor is just amazing in general, and you do want to have it. Forged Fire is an area effect 15 armor debuff on your enemies within 35 meters, and even if you want to say, hey, Blunderby and Fireglaives don't require it, your basic Hobgoblin archers are doing base heavy damage that's also flaming attack. So once you get Flammable Infliction, you're doing multiple debuffs just by existing. Missile block chance 35% is just making it even harder to cheaply take a destroyer down, which is what most enemy races aspire to. So how do we use the Kadai Destroyer? Setting aside that, like the Fireborn, this is considerably more convenient than at launch thanks to Unbreakable until 25% health, that's stock and vanilla. The point of the unit is that its mere existence provides offense, defense, and debuffing, not only through the campaign upgrades, but through disruption. The max targets damaged by Splash is still way below the max targets knocked into the air or onto the ground through its animations. This is a very disruptive creature that is hard to dislodge. Sometimes I've simply seen a weakness and sent it barreling toward enemy artillery, knowing the enemy cannot stop it. Again, 9000 mass kind of goes where it wants to. Most of the time what I aspire to is to have it at the heart of battle, not just distracting and distorting the enemy, but setting it up for combinations. Flammable plus Firestorm is great, but the full combo is a late game thing. Flanking is something you want to learn to do with this stuff, but often there's no point because it's already in battle, setting the table for cleanup by your missile and even melee troops. You don't need to be hyper-aggressive with an arrow magnet. I've seen some of the Evergreen whining about giants, but a giant I hold back is the first guy I send to intercept a YOLOing flying lord trying to hit my backline, followed by my own lord and heroes as appropriate. If you have the ranged advantage, you can just use the Kadai as a very expensive doorstop until the enemy desperately comes close, and then you smash it in the face. The Destroyer isn't there just to destroy the enemy, it's to open the enemy up to destruction by all the rest of your force. I'm finishing this script after the new Bull Centaur script. The Renders are selfish units. They're great at building themselves up, but they're stand-alone units. They're not anywhere near as selfless and contributing to the overall army as the Destroyer. That's okay. Selfish has its place. Somebody needs to sort out dangerous cavalry and monsters. The Destroyer is not a specialist. It's a general-purpose hammer and anvil combination that helps whatever else you're doing can survive on its own a while, but is genuinely meant to be used in concert with a Demonsmith. Not just for the healing, but for the magic too. If you're not using necromancers, or at least vampire heroes, you're not playing vampire counts optimally. If you're not using necrotechs, you're not using Tomb King constructs optimally. You're not using destroyers optimally without at least one Demonsmith in the house. That's just common sense. The Destroyer is completely competent on its own. This is just how you use them to make the end results even better because you know how the enemy wants to deal with them. Deny the enemy that easy choice and make things messy. The Destroyer has a fair touch of speed, so no excuses. Get it moving and keep it plunging into new blobs as much as possible, and it should do some real work for you. Take care and have fun laying fiery waste to your many foes. The direct approach is often the most satisfying.